I really cannot thank Mark for the very nice things that he had to say. I truly, the whole family was commenting on it Friday night and into the day on Saturday. So, Mark, thank you again very much. Here's the telephone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. And the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, I want to share with you first the way all of this affected me. Because in many ways, I think that I am fairly typical. I am smack dab in the middle of the targeted marketing the NFL does to acquire and hold an audience. Right smack dab in the middle of it. And I have to tell you, I was so sad Sunday morning when all of this started falling out. I was not sad after Friday night when the president made his comments. And I had no doubt afterward what the reaction was going to be, and I had no doubt where public opinion was going to fall. And I had no doubt how people in the NFL, from players to the commissioner to media people, were going to get it wrong. And they have, and they did. But if you'll permit me first, I was personally saddened. I did not watch the National Football League yesterday, and it was the first time in 45 years that I made an active decision not to watch, including my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was not a decision made in anger. It was genuine sadness. I realized that I can no longer look at this game and watch this game and study this game and pretend, fantasize everything a fan does. This whole thing has removed for me the ingredients that are in the recipe that make up a fan. The mystique is gone, and that actually started vanishing a while ago. The larger-than-life aspect of it is gone. The belief, the wish, the desire that the people in the game were the best and brightest and special, and that's why they were there, that's gone. And it's been politicized. It has been politicized and corrupted, and it didn't start this weekend. It started years ago, and if I wanted to, I could go back and get the transcripts from a few years ago in this program where I first sensed this was happening and was going to happen. Of course, years ago, I couldn't predict this specific event, but my sadness actually began years ago when all of the attention focused on the danger and the supposed attempt to hide it. Just all of that, not specifically just the concussions, the whole aura that created. The sports media began to criticize that which they report on. The sports media it just became politicized. Simply just became politicized. And the people politicizing it, since we're talking about the people that politicized it are people on the left. And when that happens, things change. It's just over. That kind of corruption, sometimes it's fast and overnight, sometimes it's creeping. This has been creeping, but it took a big leap over the weekend. Why did I not watch the Steelers? Well, it was partly, when I found out that the coach said a word that I'm having trouble here really. He said, I need to protect my players. What? Protect your players from what? I mean, the players are who's doing all this. What? He said, I want to protect. I want to make sure they don't have to decide. That when they're out there, they don't have to decide whether they're going to take a knee or put their hand over their heart. I have to protect my players. So protecting players is defined by keeping them in the locker room so that they don't have to decide what. The whole notion of protecting the players just mind boggles me. folks. Are we talking about children here? In this case, no. We're talking about the whole reason this is happening. It's all started before Donald Trump. And you know what I fear? Based on things I've seen, based on things I've read, based on things I've heard, it seems that a lot of people still believe hands up, don't shoot happened. It seems to me, and I've done nothing but immerse myself in this. I have wanted to find even the most obscure comments from the most obscure players. And folks, it seems to me that there are a lot of people who believe, hands up, don't shoot. Ferguson, Missouri, that Michael Brown was an innocent victim running away from a policeman and was shot in the back while having his hands up, don't shoot. And it didn't happen. It is a false narrative that the media spread, and the protesting agitators spread it, and it has taken on a life of its own that it never had. It was never true. And there are significantly a lot of people believe it, and other things similar to it that didn't happen or didn't happen the way they were reported. But yet people believe them. And so it has become impossible for me to view life outside the lens of media, because that's apparently how most of life is now seen, even by average, ordinary people who are not, quote, being covered by the media. It's still everything presented today is through the lens of media, which in itself corrupts. And in that sense, it's, you take a street corner, an average street corner, and there's no camera there, and things that happen. You put a camera on that corner, people know it's there, and their behavior all changes. The people who know the camera's there are going to change their behavior. I'm not arguing to remove cameras. That's not, don't misunderstand. And I'm not playing the violins wishing for the good old days. I'm trying to illustrate that that's now how people see life, is through the lens of media. And so that affects how people behave. They comport themselves in ways to be seen by cameras that will then televise what they do. People who have quote-unquote platforms. And it becomes an act or a call for attention or a marketing plan or what have you. And so this is especially relevant for me as the mayor of Realville. You know, I am the epitome of a realist. And it isn't what the media shows us more often than not. So you have to adjust, and you have to be aware that what you're watching, what you're seeing, is actually perhaps been performed with the knowledge that others are going to see it, which then changes what would have organically, naturally happened anyway. But all of this has just sad, folks. The National Football League, I loved it. I mean, it was one of my top 5 passions, hobbies, enjoyments, as regular listeners of this program know. And I'm not making this about me. I'm trying to use myself here as what I think is a pretty right down the middle example of the way people are going to react to it. Some people are going to have anger about it. Some people will be ambivalent about it. But the one thing that this is not going to do, I don't care what anybody, the one thing this is not going to do is make the NFL more popular. It is not going to make the NFL more ingrained in our society. You just cannot have a business as large as the National Football League, which is as dependent on public dollars as it is. You simply cannot have a business that allows itself to be used to promote social justice when that promotion of social justice requires displays of anti-Americanism. However you want to define, there is no way that business is going to grow and prosper. No matter how correct the protest might be, no matter how justified it might be, that is not the place for it. It is not why people spend money watching it, patronizing it, purchasing anything to do with it. And that makes me sad. I don't want the NFL to go away. I don't want the NFL to become less than what it was, but it already is. You can't watch the NFL anymore and just watch football. You can't watch ESPN anymore and just learn about what happened during the day in football games. You can't. You are going to be deluged with other things that are irrelevant to why you care and why you want to watch. You can't open the internet in the morning, newspaper, whatever. You can't. You just can't watch and absorb and learn about the NFL the way you used to be able to. You have to be willing to accept all the other things now that people are using it for. And it is being used. I've evolved a whole bunch of theories as to what is going to happen, what is happening, who's going to win in this, who's going to lose in this, who is doing the right thing, who's doing the wrong thing. I've been running all these different scenarios. I've got some input from some friends I want to share with you as well. Some of them have some quite fascinating takes. The upshot of it is, though, the sad realization that something I loved, and look, this is not old man get off my yard stuff. This is not old fuddy-duddy wanting the Ward and June Cleaver days back. It's not that. It's just, I don't think I'm going to look forward to NFL. And this is not new. It wasn't until last year, maybe the year before, but certainly last year, that I started playing golf on Sunday afternoons in order to get home to see the second half of the late game and maybe the Sunday night game. That never happened before, but yesterday was the first day I did not watch any of the National Football League. I just didn't care, which I was depressed. It made me, as I say, very sad. So let me take a break here, and we'll come back. We'll listen to what Trump said about this. Maybe. I think everybody knows that, probably has heard that. Where we are, who's right, who's wrong, what is this really all about? Where is it going? These are the things that fascinate me. And folks, you in the stick to the issues crowd, remember all those days that I would talk about the NFL, and I would have players on this program on Friday. We'd do our Super Bowl show. I had my environmentalist wacko picks on Friday to try to mix the NFL with politics because the political audience here didn't want anything to do with that or golf or anything else. Now look, the only thing that matters in the news, in the political news, is the National Football League. And not just because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't start any of this. What is Trump doing is another aspect of this that fascinates me. There may be more to this than meets the eye. But one of the most premier never-Trumpers throughout the 2015-16 campaign was Rich Lowry, National Review Online. He wrote and filed a piece yesterday called Why Trump is President. And his Alabama speech Friday night and his comments on the NFL is what Rich Lowry now realizes is why Trump is president. It isn't complicated. You have a man who is very clear in his love for the country, his love of its traditions, and his appreciation for it. And on the other side, you have people who are willing to portray themselves as not, whether they know it or not. There's no way Trump loses in this. You may think so, but there's no way he does. There's no way the NFL wins if this continues as it is. The ratings are down last night. The early returns, we don't have, of course, all the metered markets. The overnight, some of them are in, but we're down, and it's not insignificant, the numbers that are down. I mean, if there was anything in the NFL that was going to arouse curiosity among people that have turned it off, it was Friday night, all day Saturday, and yesterday. If it was anything, and there are a lot of media experts, Bob Costas is going to somebody. He said that the ratings were going to be very, very good last night. This is going to cause more and more interest. That's the traditional view. That's the old-fashioned media view. Spell my name right, and I don't care what you say. Just get me out there, put me in front of people, and I own it. That's not the way this is working, because there is so much disgust, lack of trust, anger at the media, which provides the lens through which most people see things now. There was no way the ratings were going to be up last night. There was no way the ratings overall were going to be up yesterday. And people that don't understand that, and still today don't understand it, then are probably going to have trouble understanding where America is right now, whether that's good or bad. We'll be back and continue after this. Don't go away. Wasn't President Trump called a white supremacist and a racist and a bunch of other horrible things by an ESPN announcer? He was. And, of course, the White House press secretary said that's a fireable offense. But ESPN said, no, it's not. And we're not political. And they did some sort of suspension thing. Or they didn't do some suspension. They didn't do anything. And the left rallied around. Her name is Jamel Hill. Where were the NFL owners then? Where were the NFL owners then? Upset and protesting divisive comments. Divisive comments, as though what the players are doing, disrespecting the flag, taking a knee, that's not divisive. You see, in the universe of the left, nothing they do that tears down is ever divisive, ever. Disagreeing with them is what becomes divisive. It all started, I believe, the modern impetus for this is the hands up, don't shoot lie. It was embraced. The lie furthered the idea that all cops are racist. All cops. And the owners of the National Football League are scared to death. They are scared to death. They have let this fester. It's now into its second season. Trump is talking about it. They tried to contain it, but nobody knows how to be an adult anymore with the kids. So the kids rule the roost. The business side of the Packers. He's a former defensive back for the Washington Redskins. He was a great player. He said, it is unfortunate that President Trump chose to make divisive and offensive statements about our players in the NFL. This galls me because Trump didn't say anything divisive. Trump's simply reacting like most Americans. This notion that what Trump did is divisive, but what the protesting players are doing isn't divisive? Does the NFL not see what's happening to it? Does it not see the empty stadiums? Does it not, half empty? Does it not see reduced ratings? Does it not see how divisive all of this is? It is turning football fans into something else. Donald Trump didn't do that. Mr. Murphy said, we believe it's important to support any of our players who choose to peacefully express themselves with the hope of change for good. As Americans, we are fortunate to be able to speak openly and freely. This is happening in the workplace. Let's put you on an airline flight. Let's say that you're on a Southwest flight and you're on your way from, say, Dallas to Kansas City. And halfway through the flight, right before beverage service begins, the flight attendants all take a knee, take off their shoes, and tell you that they think America is unfair and whatever else they think, and they refuse while on the job. You're going to applaud them. You're going to say, you go, girl. You go, guy. This is great. This is promoting wonderfulness in America. You going to do that? You going to fly Southwest Airlines the next time that happens? Or the next time you choose to fly? Or take any workplace situation where the people refuse to work or refuse to honor something that by rule, and there is an NFL rule saying that players must stand for the national anthem, but I don't want to get too petty with rules. But this idea that the divisiveness comes from people who oppose acts which are disrespectful to our country. We are to believe that the essence of the United States is that it's there to be destroyed, and the freedom to destroy it shall not be infringed, because America is inherently falling short in this or that, and because some people choose to say that, we cannot oppose it. We cannot object, because that is being divisive. It's one of these linguistic tricks that the left and the media have used for decades to discredit and silence opponents of liberalism or leftism. You're divisive. You're not about unity. You're not about bringing people together. No, we're about keeping people together. We are about keeping people together. Distresses us. See this kind of thing happen. Especially when the lens of the media is the view that we have on it. The owners, folks, are scared of it. What are they going to do? The owners have a choice to make, and they've made it. But it comes down to this. If you own a team in the National Football League, do you side with your employees or do you side with your customers? That's the high wire they're all on. If they side, for example, if they do not immediately come out and cream Trump or anybody else of prominence who says what he says, then the players might sit, the players might lay down, the players might, who knows what. The owners scares them to death. The kids might throw a tantrum. Customers have shown that they'll put up with a lot. They'll put up with work stoppages. They'll put up with publicly financed stadiums. They'll put up with personal seat licenses of $30,000 for the privilege then of buying a season ticket. They will put up with regular season prices for exhibitions in the preseason that don't even feature players that'll be on the final roster. So the fans have shown they'll accept a lot. So if you're an owner in the National Football League and you have this balancing act, who do I side with? You can't just, in their view, side with the players. You have to be very public about it, even if it means irritating the fans. It's kind of like the dilemma the Republican Party is in. All those years of promising to get rid of Obamacare, all those years of promising tax cuts. The moment of truth arrives, and they don't do it because they're really not afraid of their voters. They're afraid of the donors. They're afraid of whoever runs the establishment. They side with the money. Well, in this case, the money, when you get right down to it, is on the side of the fans. If the fans do not watch, do not patronize, you know the drill, then the networks don't have the money, this amount of money, to pay the NFL in rights fees to televise the games. It always is going to come down to the fans. And in this instance, the league and its owners, in their minds, have no choice but then to side with their players. And let's not even mention the racial component of the NFL. I mean, well, let's mention it. 75, 80% of it is African American. Nothing wrong with that. And by the way, Trump's comments had nothing to do with race. Zilch, zero, nada. When the left brings that up, it means they don't have anything substantive to say in response. There goes Trump, more white supremacy attack. Trump couldn't have cared less. This is not about race in anybody's mind. It's about race in the minds of the protesters, but the reaction to it is not about race. The American football fan has shown in I don't know how many ways that the race makeup of players, teams is irrelevant to them. The fans of the National Football League have made it the wealthiest sports endeavor in history, a league that is comprised of 75% African Americans. Don't tell me that there is racism in terms of the fans who are critical of what's become of their National Football League. The evidence is to the quite contrary. It just isn't there. The fans of the National Football League have made heroes out of everybody, every star that's played this game, and their race and their sexual orientation. None of that has mattered because it's all about the special talents that they have that everybody else wishes they had. And so not having those talents, you revel and you marvel in watching those perform who have those talents. And when they don't seem to exhibit any appreciation for what they have and what they've earned, it just hurts. It makes me sad. Try starting the National Football League anywhere else in the world and having it become this financially robust and successful. It couldn't do it. It's a uniquely, distinctly American sport and enterprise. And to sully it by claiming that there is racism in the reaction to the protests of the great symbols of our country is cheap, and it's intellectually vacant, and it is purposely avoiding the real issues that are at stake here. The owners keep talking about dialogue and positive change, but that's not what the fans are seeing. They're not seeing positive change from this dialogue. They're seeing a thumb in their eyes and then creating this fantasy that this controversy is all about race. The owners are scared. If they agree with Trump and say so, can you imagine? What do you do when you have, talk to you parents, because I'm not one, but when you were raising your kids and you would go, say, take your 2-year-old or 3 with you, if you had to the grocery store or anywhere else in public, what would you do if your kid starts throwing a tantrum? There are many ways parents deal with this. Different parents, different philosophies. How many of you do nothing? How many of you sit and let the kid rock, wail, moan, make a mess, do whatever until he gets his way? How many of you leave the store, take the kid out the car, sit there, have somebody else do shopping? How many of you take the child home? But how do you do it? However you do it, you're the adult and the child is the child. We don't have any adults, it seems, throughout our culture. See Odell Beckham Jr. You watched this game last night? I didn't either. I would not have known this happened had I not seen a picture of the back cover of the New York Post. Odell Beckham Jr., number 13 of the New York Giants. Apparently caught a touchdown pass. He got down on all fours and hiked his right leg as though he were urinating in the end zone in Philadelphia. We are not supposed to have a thought on that. He's young and expressive and still learning his way. What are the odds that somebody will speak to him? He may be fine, but what are the odds somebody's going to take him and say, young man, let me teach you how to be an adult? Think that'll happen? Probably not. It hasn't been happening in too many other places. As I say, all this just makes me sad. I don't know if it just makes me sad. Pick an avocation. Pick something of yours that's a hobby that if you weren't doing what you were doing, you would love to be doing that, and just wake up one day and realize it's over, it's gone, it's not what it was, and it can't be again. Now, that's the story of life, by the way. Nothing is ever constant. There is always change. You hope the change that happens is for the good, for the better. This isn't. This just isn't. No, it's not that I'm not sympathetic to the cause. Who the hell is opposed to equality? Who the hell is opposed to freedom? Certainly not me, certainly not Donald Trump. But when much of this is based on an absolute lie, hands up, don't shoot, and a couple other things, and when, by the way, the commissioner of the NFL refuses the Dallas Cowboys permission to wear a helmet decal honoring the dead police officers in that shootout, when that's not permitted, but all this other stuff is, you can't blame people for scratching their heads and say, what? This doesn't make sense. And since none of us have the power or the ability to positively change the game, we either stick with it or we don't. Anyway, brief timeout. I'm going to go to the phones, and at the next stage of this, I've got some fascinating takes on how this is going to play out, who wins, who loses, in the political sense. So, what is Trump's real motivation here? Is there more than meets the eye? I think there probably is. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to get into it all. I'm wishing all 3 hours would go by in the next 10 minutes. I can't wait to say it all. So, but just be patient, folks, because I have to. We'll be right back. My girlfriend might have a role in this. That's from none other than Ray Lewis. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. When this all started, and then other players started imitating Kaepernick because, hey, their cameras are going to be on me. Then they did it. And remember, there were a lot of coaches. Hey, I can't tell these guys how to behave. I can't. But you most certainly do. Look at Lawrence Timmons. Lawrence Timmons went AWOL for a day from the Miami Dolphins and big trouble. The National Football League tells players every day what they can't do. Bud Dupree, a linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was fined $12,000 last week for simulating a sex act after a tackle. The league every day confiscates money from players for violating this clause or that clause, or what. So they tell them how they can't behave, and they fine them every day for things. But I can't tell these guys not to just flag. I can't. No. No, you won't. And you won't for whatever reason you've got fine, but just say you won't. It's not that you can't. Here's Chris in Stafford, Virginia. Hey, Chris, what's up? You're first today.
How you doing, sir?
Go ahead, Chris.
I'd like to start off by saying I think I've been listening to you for almost 2 years, and a lot of stuff that you say makes sense, because a lot of stuff I did not understand as far as the Republican and the Democratic side. I want to ask you a question. I think the people are a little upset and thinking that the players are degrading the flag when I don't see it that way. I was in the United States Marine Corps from 91 through 99. So I guess I know a little bit something about patriotic as far as being in the military and representing the flag. I just think that they're using their platform to get a message across as far as the police brutality and a lot of stuff that's going on that shouldn't be going on. And my question to you is, when you see the flag, naturally you think of our military service personnel, Congress, and more than likely the front runner, which is the President of the United States. Do you think that the way that he's acting and the way that he's talking, not to the Koreans, to the football.
Chris, I'm going to have to. Chris, I'm out of time here. I'll answer your question as I think I understand it when we get back. I have to. By keeping the team in the locker room, keep them away from the controversy. I totally understand that. Tomlin doesn't want any part of this. It's obvious. He doesn't want some of his players going out there and doing whatever is fashionable to do now. He wanted to keep away from this. I, in fact, kind of admire if this is what the pregame has become, we're not going to do the pregame. Problem is, there is a rule in the NFL that players must be on the sideline. The rule right here. You have to be there. But rules are schmools, right? I mean, there aren't too many rules that are enforced these days. The comment that Tomlin made that just made me curious was protect. I want to protect the players from having to make a choice. Well, making a choice is what they've been doing. What he wanted to do was protect the Steelers organization from being part of this. That's admirable. I mean, he sees what's going on. He sees it's a distraction. Do you know that the Seattle Seahawks were in Nashville to play the Tennessee Titans? Now, because they're on the left coast, they travel on Friday. The Raiders traveled on Friday to Washington to play the Redskins on Sunday night. Normally, the NFL travels a day before, but left coast teams going to the Eastern time zone go a day early. They go on Friday to try to get acclimated because the game on Sunday, if it's a 1 o'clock game, 10 a.m. body clock time. And that's a game, the Seahawks. They had a 4.5-hour meeting Saturday to discuss what to do in the pregame. A 4.5-hour team meeting to discuss how to link arms or whether to link arms or who's going to, in addition to whatever meetings they had about the game and strategery and all of that. When I saw that, that's what I think Mike Tomlin is trying to keep his team from getting involved in. But his plan went awry because there actually is an Army Ranger that plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he is a very important member of the team. He's the offensive left tackle. He is the number one protector of the quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, on the blind side. He's the left tackle. He's a highly decorated Special Forces Army man, and he couldn't stay in the locker room. His heart, his sense of duty, compelled him to go out. He was just on the cusp of the tunnel. He was not on the sideline, just outside the tunnel. And the players all say that they are banding together for each other and to support each other, and that what they're doing, none of this is intended to diss the military. None of this is intended to show disrespect for any of the people who wear the uniform or have worn the uniform. Well, there's a guy who wore the uniform and his team, he went out alone. And Coach Tomlin he said, I was shooting for 100% participation stay in the locker room during the pregame. But Villanueva decided to go out because that's just what you do. And he stood there alone and solitary with his hand over his heart with the rest of the Steelers in the locker room. I didn't see any of this till after the day's action was completed, and I saw a still photo of it. I didn't watch any highlights last night. I haven't seen a single play. that happened yesterday in the NFL. And I'm not urging people to, it's not a boycott. I just didn't feel it. As I said, the thrill's gone. Sadness was overwhelming. Let's get into some what other people think here about the take. I mentioned Rich Lowry, who is, as the editor of National Review, a Never Trump. By the way, when we get off of this and on to other things, there is a fascinating piece here by a guy I am quoting more and more often, Kurt Schlichter. This is Schlichter at Schlichter, S-L-I-C-H-T-E-R, however he put it. I've seen that pronounced I don't know how many different ways. Conservative Inc. is being replaced by us militant normals. This is one of the most provocative and in-depth analysis of what has happened to the conservative movement that I have seen yet. And we'll get into that as the program unfolds. But Rich Lowry was an original Never Trumper, and he runs a magazine that remains Never Trump. National Review. He posted on, I guess it was over the way, I don't have the exact date, why Donald Trump is president. Regarding Trump's fire the NFL protesters line Friday night, it's a classic example of Trump's, at times, gut-level political savvy. This kind of thing is why he's president. Do you realize what an admission that is? That's an admission. Guess where the most of America, guess where most of voting America is? It's with Donald Trump on this issue. Lowry says he takes a commonly held sentiment, most people don't like the NFL protests, and states it in an inflammatory way guaranteed to get everyone's attention and generate outrage among his critics. When those critics lash back at him, Trump is put in a position of getting attacked for defending America. There's no way he loses. Don't care what you all in the media think. Don't care what Goodell thinks. You know, Goodell said, I've never been prouder of our league yesterday, the way we handle this. You know, the NFL is in the NFL, I actually think, is the useful idiots in the political battle that's being waged with it, to it, and against it. And I don't know if they understand what's happening. Just like Hillary still doesn't know what happened to her. I don't know that the NFL understands what's happening to it. I really don't think they do. They couldn't be blamed, really. I mean, look at a few short years ago, they owned everything. Monster TV ratings, monster cash flow, monster revenue generation, monster popularity. When it starts to fade away, first thing that happens to you, if you're not careful, is denial. It's temporary. We'll get it back. It's the hurricanes. It was the election. But the numbers keep sliding. It wasn't the hurricane. It wasn't just the election. It's something more basic. Of course, NFL owners firing players on the spot for protesting, that's not common sense, but this is where seriously, not literally, comes in with Trump, since everybody knows that the owners are not going to fire the SOBs. And by the way, Trump didn't call all of them SOBs, if that matters to you. Trump's statement registers for his supporters merely as forceful opposition to the protests, not as a specific plan of action. Bingo. Bingo. Trump supporters to this day are not understood. They are still impugned and mocked and laughed at. But they have grown tired of a country they love being under assault as unjust or immoral or illegitimate. They're fed up with it. Their president defends it, defends them. The specifics don't matter. There is finally somebody speaking up for America. But Rush, the protesters are speaking up for America. They may think so, but they're not. In the eyes of most NFL fans, they're not speaking up for America. This is not complicated either. The left has always believed that malcontents and protesters and people practicing dissent is quintessential America. But most Americans don't think that's what quintessential America is. You see, it just doesn't compute. that something you claim to love, you bitch about all the time. It just doesn't compute. But, Rush, the complaints come from love and a desire for it to be better. Really? You think that's what that really is? I don't think so. Stick with me on this. Meanwhile, Rich Lowry concluding, when Trump is criticized and doesn't back down, it's taken by his supporters as a sign of strength. If a political consultant came up with Trump's strategy, he would deserve a huge raise, but it's just Trump himself operating on instinct. Rich Lowry, National Review. You don't know what a, I don't know, admission, realization this is. This is essentially, I mean, why Donald Trump is president. This is, Donald Trump instinctively knows where the heart of America is. The National Football League all these years have thought that it knew because of its robust popularity and money, but turns out it didn't and doesn't. Here's another theory that was sent to me. My old buddy Seton Motley has his website. He said the left's idea to play up the NFL protests, knowing it would further the left's effort to kill the NFL by bringing the right against it, is brilliant strategy, and the political neophyte NFL is the useful idiot in its own impending demise. What he means by this, start out with the basic premise that the left is trying to end the NFL. Some people think that. I'm not sure it goes that far. I think what the left sees is a giant cash cow, much like the monochrome coalition would shake down corporations, threaten boycotts unless they donated to the causes that the Reverend Jackson found near and dear, which would be those causes close to him. I don't think they want to wipe out the NFL, although some may. I mean, some of the extremists do because it's dangerous, it's barbaric, it's American. It's quintessentially American. It's patriotic. These are the things that the left, don't argue with me, folks. You can't argue that these are the things the left is trying to destroy. The heart and soul of America. It's imperfect. Barack Obama, we want to transform the United States into something that it should have been but isn't, whatever the words were. So Seton here believes that the left's plan is backfiring. Well, actually, it isn't that. What's happening is the left's success in damaging or destroying the NFL is working to a T, because what's it doing? It's driving the fan base away. The fastest thing you could do to hurt the NFL is drive the fan base away. And the people on the left who want to destroy the NFL or really damage it by encouraging these protests, and don't think the left is not involved. This is not player-generated and player-started. This is, there's all kinds of activists behind this. And if their objective is to wound and weaken, diminish the NFL, the fastest way to do it is to encourage behavior that's going to drive the fan base away. So Seton's theory is it's working like a charm, and the NFL, clueless, is joining the side of the people trying to ruin it. Which it is, if that theory holds. Here is another one from our old buddy Eric Erickson. I've had everybody weighing in on this. He said, yeah, the left wants to hurt the NFL, but I don't think they want to end it. They just want another pool of corporate cash to fund their causes. All this angst against the NFL is part of a shakedown of sorts. So here comes Trump calling out the NFL. Rush, I have friends who don't care for Trump at all. And I believe that because Eric was not a Trumpist. I have friends who didn't care for Trump at all who rewatched that rally in Alabama, and they're laughing. They watch it over. They're laughing each time. These people loved it, and they're giving Trump amens and high fives. People that didn't like Trump watch this rally. You think the NFL is going to believe that? You think the NFL and the owners, that all this, the media people are going to believe? If they do believe it, it's going to make them mad, but they're probably going to reject it. It's anecdotal, Rush. You can't say it's. I'm not saying it's scientific. I'm just giving the take care of individual. Here's the next part of the theory. The left is now out saying that if you don't take the knee, you're for Trump. You think that pressure is being brought to bear on players in the locker room? You don't? You don't think there's people, if you don't take the knee, you may as well be for Trump? You don't think there are people who are being forced to take the knee? Otherwise, they're for Trump. The average person knows this is silly, but now you've got minority voters who already realize that secular liberals are a bigger threat to them than Trump is. Trump never made them worry about taking their daughter into the bathroom at Target or any of this stuff. Now they just want to watch the game. And the entire left-wing complex is trying to tell them they have to pick a side. You have to pick the flag, or you have to take you got to pick a side, and all that's going to do is make people mad. They just want to watch football. They don't want to pick a side. They don't think this is where it should be. So we're left with the NFL having several options. They can stop playing the anthem. And by the way, that's being suggested not yesterday for the first time. First time it was suggested, I predicted that this is defining deviancy down. The problem is the anthem, you see, not the behavior. The problem's the anthem. So what do we get rid of the anthem? People are suggesting that. If that happens, you think Trump can't make hay out of that? The NFL has decided to ban the national. Can you imagine Trump's tweets after that? Second, they could make the players stand. They could enforce the rule. You're going to stand. You're going to respect the flag. Can you imagine Trump with that? Third, they could just shut the whole thing down. Make a lot of people mad. Hand Trump yet another. Point is, he doesn't see any way the left can win this fight in the long haul against Trump. If the NFL was smart, it would tell the players to stand respectfully and let them put something on their clothes, a decal on the jersey or on the helmet in protest to whatever. Even that would be running a risk, but that'll never happen anyway. The NFL will not ever try to stop this kind of behavior. All of that is true, too. I take a break. We'll come back and resume with you on the phones. How to behave, how they can, what's a fireable offense. This is absolutely true. You're absolutely right about this. But you see, this is all part of it. And you're also right that it's media people, supposed educated, learned people who are further. It's all part of the effort to make these guys look oppressed and discriminated against, and so forth. And of course, whatever they do, that can't be divisive. Why, that's only uplifting. When it is divisive, and you can look at the stands and TV ratings to see that it is. It's just common sense that's now in utter total deal and replace Obamacare bill. And once again, Senator McCain has said that he will do what he can to kill it. He won't support it, whatever, and if he doesn't, it's close to dead. Trump has lashed out and called McCain's actions a slap in the face. And I guarantee you the media, how dare he? How dare he say these things? McCain is a decorated hero, a prisoner of war who was tortured. John McCain is a genuine, but the American people, the Donald Trump base, it's exactly what they are saying about McCain and have been for a long time. So all of you know what Trump is? Trump is in the process, I think, of redefining what a politician is, because he's clearly not a politician in the mold of the common, ordinary, everyday politician we've come to know and love all these years. It clearly is establishing new boundaries, new guidelines. And what he's doing, it's very simple how he's doing it. He's simply, instinctively knows what a majority of Americans say or think in a specific instance about a specific issue, and he says it. And I don't think he has to study it. He doesn't focus group it. He doesn't poll it. He doesn't say to some campaign consultant, go in there, poll the American people, find out where they are and they can. He just goes out because he instinctively gets it. You could see it at his rallies. Here's Charity in South Carolina. I'm glad you waited. You're next up. Great to have you with us on the program today. How are you?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
Very good. Thank you.
I was just wondering why are the NFL players being praised for kneeling during the national anthem, for standing for what they believe in? Not really standing, I guess. But Donald Trump is being criticized for exactly the same thing.
Bingo!
If you have a platform and you want to use it, why don't you do something positive? At least Donald Trump's standing up for something. You talk about divisive. Those people kneeling down are the epitome of divisiveness. That's dividing the people more than anything else, more than anything Donald Trump is saying.
Bingo! Exactly. Not even I could say it better than that. You are so... No, you're exactly right. I've been thinking the same thing all weekend. You know, it offends me. It offends me when I listen to all these people describe certain behavior as wonderful, thorough, pure Americana, and then somebody objects to it as divisive. And as though Trump, if you read what these people said, Trump is not entitled to react to it. Trump should shut up. Trump is not helping the situation. You shouldn't. As though when the left gets in gear and their stuff starts rolling, we're just to get out of the way and let it go where it goes. And if we stand up and try to stop it or say we're against it, then we're accused of being divisive or racist or bigoted or what have you. You are exactly right. He is as much entitled to his view on this as they are to theirs.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
I am just curious as to how kneeling during the national anthem is standing against police brutality. I don't understand that whole thing. That's basically saying that the American people and the American flag stands for police brutality. But I don't understand how kneeling during the national anthem means... I don't understand the whole thing. Look, my husband and I are in the Navy, both of us, and he's over in Japan, and I'm here in South Carolina with two kids. Like, we make sacrifices every day. How is kneeling during the national anthem anything to do with police brutality?
Well, it isn't, of course. That's exactly right. So let me walk you through things and have you answer some questions. I mean, you know the answers to this, but this will be a useful exercise. What is the purpose playing the national anthem at any time before a sports event or any event? What is the intention? Why do we do it?
To unite people, to show that we are a country that's united. We stand together. We stand for something, for freedom, for liberty.
True. It is also to celebrate positively and to express and show a genuine love for the country above and beyond the symbolic. It's something that's done that is distinctly pro-America. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so if people are going to take positions, assume positions, say they whatever, in the midst of that celebration, what is the only thing you can conclude?
That they are not for America?
They are protesting against that celebration of America because they've got a grievance against it.
Right.
And they're doing this on company time. It's a workplace protest, and because the cameras are there, because people are there, they turn on their TVs, they go to the stadium to watch a football game. Now they have to watch this if they're going to watch the game. If it's the lens of the media, they don't want to have to see this at this particular... Now, the protesters, that's exactly right. They wouldn't care. This is why we have to put it in their face. But when you boil it all down, what is it? There's not a graphic on TV during the anthem that says Colin Kaepernick is taking a knee because of police brutality. That's not the what it looks like is is that Colin Kaepernick is not a happy American. He doesn't believe in it, and for whatever reason. And that take, be it right or wrong, is completely understandable. I don't think, police brutality, prison overpopulation, whatever the cause is, it is being advanced by the left. See, this is, folks, this is my reason for being sad. They've corrupted it now. And it can't, I don't know how it goes back to being the same. I wish it could. And this is not wishing, as I said, to go back to Warden Cleaver and the Jude Cleavers in the 50s and so forth, turning back the clock in that sense. Because we're only talking about 2 or 3 years here. But you're right. Police brutality, what is taking a knee? And what is the police brutality? What is it? I maintain to you, based on a lot that I've read, that there are still way too many people who believe hands up, don't shoot. One of the most successful media lies in the recent past. Ferguson, Missouri, Michael Brown was shot in the back while running away from a cop. His hands up, please don't shoot, officer, don't shoot, don't shoot. You'd be stunned at the number of people still believe that's what happened. Now, I want to share with you a story from the Daily Wire. Thanks very much, Charity, for the phone call. 2 years after embracing racial protests, Mizzou football is a dumpster fire. Some people think that it's hands up, don't shoot. Some people think it's the police brutality. The cops are targeting innocent blacks purposely. Whether they believe hands up, don't shoot or not, I guarantee you that the idea that the cops are targeting innocent blacks and shooting them as target, that's what's believed. It isn't questioned. If one of the protesters thinks that's what's happening, then we must deal with that, whether it's right or wrong. Even if it's wrong, we are nevertheless to accept that they believe it, because it has been true in the past. So no improvement that is ever made in America is allowed to count. No change for the better is allowed to count. It's as though no progress has been made when what we see on television every Sunday is clear evidence that it has. At any rate, James Barrett here at the Daily Wire. The subhead of the story, the team that helped ignite the football protest movement, a lesson in what happens when politics eclipse sports. It's a brief little history. When the Mizzou football team chose to embrace the racial protests gripping the campus at Mizzou in November of 2015, the New York Times cheered the players for lending heft to the activists' cause. 2 years later, the New York Times had to admit that all the hysteria and the administration's decision to cave to it turned out to be exactly what many predicted it would be, an absolute disaster for the university. How many of you remember this? Racial protests all over the campus. There were people telling stories. A cop shot me, a cop took a shot at me, or what have you, and we had that professor who was bullying people around. And we had the wealthy son of a St. Louis, very successful St. Louis guy, passing himself off as a poor, beleaguered, downtrodden victim who was leading all these protests to high hell. And, of course, the pressure was brought. The football team was told it must support these protests. There must be unity on campus for the protests. And the coach and the team went along with it. Freshman enrollment dropped 35% following all this, forcing the school to shut down 7 dormitories and lay off over 400 employees. As for the football team, which saw millions of dollars in donations disappear overnight, it is a full-fledged dumpster fire. There are so many dormitories empty at the University of Missouri. Do you know what is happening now? People who want to go to Mizzou football games at Columbia are calling the university and asking to use those dorms as hotel rooms. And the university's fine. You want to pay us to stay in the dorms overnight? Free game? Fine with us. Following a brutal 2016 season, the Mizzou Tigers started this season getting torched by 3 of their 4 opponents. In 2016, the year after letting the racial protests eclipse football, Mizzou had an abysmal season. They didn't even come close to getting a bowl berth. As the once cheering Times was forced to acknowledge in July, the university that really got the campus racial protest movement going is now a lesson in what happens when an administration allows social justice activists to lay siege to an institution. In the fall of 2015, a grassy quadrangle, the center of the University of Missouri, became known nationwide as the command center of an escalating protest. It was a moment of triumph for protesting students. It has been a disaster for the university. Black students were already a small minority at Mizzou. They were 10% of the freshman class in 2012. They're now just 6% last fall. So Mizzou is an early indicator of what happens when an organization, in this case University of Missouri, in the case of the NFL, professional football, gives itself over to the protest movement and allows it to rule the roost and define what happens. The University of Missouri is a ghost town now. I mean, it really is. The football team is decimated. And the NFL is embracing the national anthem protest movement almost to a T, the way the University of Missouri football team embraced the protest movement on campus. I think they even, I don't know if they canceled a game. It was something critical that they did to show their solidarity. But the number of parents who want to send their kids there is way down. Empty dormitories. It's a real-life lesson right in front of everybody. Until the university president was removed from office. And his name was Wolf. And his crime was that his car ran into some protester, which turned out to be a lie. His car ran into a protest. He kept going. He didn't care. And it was all a lie. And when the players threatened to boycott the next game and all football-related activities, the administration caved and the coach caved, and they got rid of the university president. And now the football team has kind of fallen on hard times. The university enrollment has fallen on hard times. The complaint was that the university president's name is Wolf responded too slowly to the various charges of racism on campus, most of which were made up. But here's what's happening, folks. If you want to boil this down to its essence. Well, Wolf resigned because it would have cost the university $1 million if they had to forfeit a game. If the players had not shown up, if the players had boycotted, they were threatening to, it would have cost them $1 million. University president resigned. I mean, they totally caved. This is, folks, it's right there where all of this could potentially be headed. If the players have unabridgable First Amendment rights, free speech, then why are there penalties for certain end zone celebrations? I mean, that's certainly free speech, freedom of expression. Why can't Odell Beckham Jr. pretend he's a dog and urinate on the floor on the end zone at Philadelphia if he's got First Amendment rights? Of course, he doesn't, you see. But here's what's happening. In public, the left is attempting to do damage for whatever their objectives are. We'll leave those aside for now. The left is attempting to publicly damage, take hold of the NFL. And people who are not political, and there are a lot of those in this country, more than you would think, are seeing it. And they don't like it. And now there's a president speaking out against it. In public, it is Democrats who are now showing up to be the party supporting actions against the flag. The Democrats are being seen as the party that encourages protest against the anthem and the country itself. I'm telling you, sports media guys and gals, there's no way Donald Trump loses this the way you've got to say. For God save the Queen. It was an early game. I guess they televised it at 9:30. I didn't see any football yesterday. I don't know if I'm going to watch tonight. I'm just sad. I'm just disillusioned. Like too many things are dying, folks. Too many people, too many things are dying. The NFL is dying. But get the irony here. The Ravens, I assume the Jaguars too, they deal for the American national anthem. Stand up for God Save the Queen. Do they not know that England is who introduced slavery? Do they not? I mean, they don't know that. I mean, they don't know that. Welcome back, my friends. It's good to have you. Roger Goodell said very proud of the league yesterday. He said the NFL and our players are at our best when we help create a sense of unity in our country and culture. This totally escapes me. You know, I'm a literalist. I'm a realist. So when people say things, I mistakenly, in many cases, assume that's what they mean. But this is exact. We had a caller named Charity who wanted to know how in the world is whatever they do unifying and wonderful and pure, but somebody reacting to it like Trump is divisive. Well, it's because there's a mandate. And the mandate is that you will accept what the left is doing, and you will like it. You will support it, you will like it, you will love it, or else you are divisive. So the NFL and our players are at our best when we help create a sense of unity in our country and our culture. Divisive comments like these demonstrate an unfortunate lack of respect for the NFL, our great game, and all of our players, and a failure to understand the overwhelming force for good our clubs and players represent in our communities. You know, I don't want to get started responding. I really don't. I hate that the NFL is being sullied. I hate it. But man, you cannot search out NFL news without some big story on the latest suspension, the latest criminal allegations. And the media loves reporting that stuff, and the media loves reporting the suspensions. They're killing their own goose with this stuff. But players are at our best when we help create a sense of unity. This is becoming, all of this stuff is cliche. We are the best versions of ourselves when we are engaging in unity and when we are engaging in check the stands, check the ratings. There isn't any unity going on here. It's just the exact opposite. And of course, this is from the same league that threatened to fine the Dallas Cowboys, who wanted to put decals on their helmets to honor 5 policemen in Dallas who were killed by a Black Lives Matter supporter. It was a preseason game, and the league said, no, you can't put a decal honoring the cops. We don't just put decals on uniforms and helmets willy-nilly. What was that going to be, divisive? Damn well it better. Probably was. Probably, we can't put a decal honoring the police. Not in our league. We can't do that. That'd be divisive. Look, I don't want to, as I say, USA Today points out 321 arrests of NFL players since the end of the 2009 season. And the NFL will say, yeah, but that's less than on a per capita percentage basis, society at large. And then here's the AP. The AP, president's criticism sparked more protest at NFL games. You know why this is? See, this is how out of touch the media and everybody in the NFL just went to town on this. They promoted this, because the objective, for those of you tuning in today who are not politically oriented and not steeped in a daily dose of political news, the objective in all of this, after Trump's comments on Friday, the objective is to separate Trump's voters from Trump. That's what the political media has been trying to do ever since Trump won the nomination, and maybe even before, because they think the route to getting rid of Trump is getting rid of his support base. And so Trump goes to his Alabama rally on Friday night, says what he says, and the media assumes, as they always do, and the left assumes, as they always do, that a vast majority of America is righteously offended, righteously indignant, and righteously will not tolerate what the president said. And they go to town reporting it gleefully, as though this is it, the president's done it now, he's finally shot himself in the foot, and then they realize that the president's supporters are backing him and agree with him. The attention this story is getting is largely because the media would love to damage the relationship that Trump has with his support base. Audio soundbite time. Let's start here at number one. Friday night in Huntsville, Alabama, campaign rally for Senator Luther Strange. It's a whole other subject. That Trump was trying to appease Mitch was a mistake in supporting Luther Strange, trying to appease Mitch, trying to get Mitch to help him out with some stuff legislative, and they stuck with it. His supporters are even hanging on through this. But anyway, we have two bites what Trump said and then a reaction from last night at Joint Base Andrews.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired.
Did you hear all that unity? Or you hear all that divisiveness? But you see, that's unity. That's Trump supporters all in. Hook, line, and sinker. They bought it. They're all for it. Now, a bunch of NFL people took offense that Trump was calling players SOBs. He didn't use plural. He said, wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that SOB off the field right now? Another way of putting it, ma'am, would you take your child out of the store for a moment or out of the theater until the child stops crying? But he wasn't calling the whole league that. But, of course, it was reported that's what Trump thinks of everybody, and the NFL was reacting. Several people did. Here's the second thing that Trump said. Not a lot of attention being paid to this.
The NFL ratings are down massively. Massively. Now, the number one reason happens to be that they like watching what's happening with yours truly. Because, you know, today, if you hit too hard, right? They hit too hard, 15 yards, throw him out of the game. They had that last week. I watched for a couple of minutes. Two guys just really beautiful tackle. Boom, 15 yards. The referee gets on television. His wife is sitting at home. She's so proud of him. They're ruining the game, right?
Oh, man. This goes against every grain of reporting in the NFL now. You can't celebrate hard hits. We're trying to take those out of the game. You can't that's a future suicide potential. That's a future you can't celebrate that. You can't promote that. We're trying to take that out of the game, which they are. There's a guy named Bill Tobin. He's a scout for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he's been with the Detroit Lions. He's a longtime NFL employee, and he's likewise not happy with the direction the game's going. He says, "Look, football is what it is, and there are concussions that happen to people all over this country that don't play football, and there are people that die and commit suicide that don't play football." He said, rather than go through all this, there are people that want to play this game. Make them sign a piece of paper acknowledging what's going on and let them play it if that's what they want to do. This is the United States. You engage in freedom. And he's upset that the social justice warriors are coming in here trying to legislate the game based on their own personal political preferences, which is what they are, and changing the game. And by the way, they've succeeded at that too, folks. I saw, I said something last week, and I found that it was also stated by Greg Easterbrook, Tuesday morning quarterback, a correct assessment of how people watch the game now. The league has done this. The league's media has done this to itself. You can't watch football the way you used to. You watch thinking, knowing there's going to be a car wreck, and that you shouldn't be watching. There's a part of you that says this game is dangerous, it's brutal, people could get killed out there. Oh, God. And it's totally changed the attitude people have watching the game. This is undeniable, too. There's now an invisible barrier, not barrier, there's an invisible aura that you watch every game through now. They have stigmatized so much of it that it's impossible for people to not watch the game with apprehension and, I don't know, fear, something that approximates that, which is not going to encourage long-term devotion, loyalty, and viewership. If you think you shouldn't be watching because of the way that all of the head trauma, the injuries, the way they have been portrayed as, and whenever a former player dies now, it's like climate change caused the hurricane. It's like playing football is the reason the former player died. There's hardly any doubt about it. It's just automatically assumed. This stuff affects people who watch the game. It does, and it's not a positive. The league's got to know this is happening. This is affecting their pocketbook. Now, Sunday at Joint Base Andrews, a bunch of reporters, parrots. Mr. Trump, is it true that you're racist? Is it true that your comments with the NFL were based on race? Is it true? Is it true that what you really don't like is black people protesting? Is that what it is, Mr. Trump? Mr. Trump, are you just racist? Is it what all this is? Just a bunch of players in the NFL, they're African American and black, and you command their protest. You don't think black people should be... I mean, he's heard this question's come, the allegation has come. The allegation was made on CNN Friday night. The president's a racist. It's cheap. You people in the media, you've got that allegation is cheap because you throw it around at virtually every utterance. Somebody who's not a liberal makes. Here's Trump's reply.
That's okay. Look, he has to take his ideas and go with what he wants. I think it's very disrespectful to our country. I think it's very, very disrespectful to our flag. I like Bob very much. He's my friend, but he gave me a Super Bowl ring a month ago, right? So he's a good friend of mine, but and I want him to do what he wants to do. When you get on your knee and you don't respect the American flag or the anthem, that's not being treated with respect. It has nothing to do with race. I've never said anything about race. This has nothing to do with race or anything else. This has to do with respect for our country.
He was asked about Robert Kraft, the New England Patriots, a Trump supporter, saying that he was deeply disappointed by what Trump said. And the first part of Trump's answer was, he has to take his ideas and go with what he wants. Look, the owners, as I discussed earlier, are scared to death, folks. You might not feel sorry for them. I mean, they're billionaires and all that, but they're scared to death. There's no right. They lose no matter which side they choose. They've got to come down to the side of their employees or their customers. They're trying to find this middle ground, and they're doing that with liberal political language like we're for unity and solidarity, and it doesn't fly because this isn't unity. Nobody's being unified. The divisiveness is happening on Sundays. It's not happening White House where President Trump makes statements or in Alabama. By the way, something happened in Foxborough yesterday that I didn't know this either until reading the aftermath. But this is Gillette Stadium during the singing of the national anthem. Apparently, the fans booed. Drive-bys, I don't know if they showed this or not, but there are two bites here. When their players were kneeling and all that during the anthem. Here, listen. That's at the beginning of the anthem. Here's at the end. So proud of what we did at the NFL today. So proud of our reaction. Unity. We all came together here today in the NFL. We really sucked until we came together. And what nobody's able to do, Donald Trump's done. Donald Trump's got the players and the commissioner unified. Right. The wagons are being circled around the NFL, and they're not seeing them. Here's a montage. NFL players and coaches. You characterize this yourself.
We felt like President Trump's speech was an assault, on our most cherished right, freedom of speech.
There's only a few times in a man's life where you have a chance to make a statement, and I took it.
There are no SOBs in this league. These are men that work hard, of integrity.
I know for a fact that I'm no son of a bitch, and I plan on continuing forward and doing whatever I can from my position to, promote the equality that's needed in this country.
We will not be divided by this. We got a group of men in there, man, that come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, races, creed, ethnicities, and religions, and so forth. That's football. That's a lot of team sports. But because of our position, we get drugged into to be quite honest with you.
Mike Tomlin, the Steelers there, doesn't want any part of it. I got to take a break, though. I'm real tight here.
Good afternoon, Rush. What an honor it is to be on the program with you today. This is a bucket list moment for me.
Thank you,
really
sir.
Quickly, I was away this. Oh, thank you. I was away this weekend working. I'm a hockey play-by-play guy, and we are a football family. I'm a diehard Patriot fan. My wife's a diehard Cowboy fan. We raise the kids. We make the wings, the beer, get together for the Super Bowl all the time every weekend. My brother-in-law's brother, blah blah blah. Oh, father, mother, everybody. So I'm away, and my daughter's my fantasy football partner. She's 7 years old, so I'm voicemailing her, about how Brady's doing. I'm keeping an eye on it. Yeah, because we got Brady. Of course, we picked him in the first round, and my wife's like, they're not watching. I'm like, well, what do you mean they're not watching? What are you talking about? I was like, well, put the game on. And she goes, I had it on. The national anthem came on. They saw the guys kneeling, and my son and my daughter turned to her and said, Mommy, turn it off. We don't want to watch this because they're not standing for our flag. And I am not. I was never intended not to watch it because of this. Because I'm like, they're not going to ruin my time. They're not going to. Sundays, it's a family thing. Whatever. These guys are doing whatever they're doing. And I'm pretty political, but I'm like, whatever. This will pass. It's just another moment of.
Wait a minute. Did you say your 7-year-olds didn't want to watch? Is that what you said? Did I hear you right?
Well, my daughter's 7. My son's 11. My son was the one who turned around. My daughter was in agreement with him. Said, Mommy, turn this off. We do not want to watch this because they won't stand. All by themselves.
Whoa.
And I was never going to not watch it.
But you were prepared to. You weren't going to let this stuff intrude on your love for the game.
Right. It's not just a game. Football. It's a spectacle on Sunday. We make, wings.
I know.
My wife makes a chicken dip. You have everybody over.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I've built a whole room for that in my house. Intrusion, security violation, whatever. You hope it never happens. You take precautions like locking your door, making your home appear lived in. You leave a TV on, the lights on, even when you're away on vacation, the sprinklers going, all that stuff. But people case your joint. They know when you're not there, and it's best for them to hit you in the daytime because they figure nobody's going to be home or fewer people home in the daytime. Contrary to the way it's all presented on TV, crime shows. home burglaries always happen at night, break-ins when everybody's in bed. That's not how it happens. It happens when nobody's there. The best precaution is not faking like you're at home. The best precaution is making sure that if there's an intrusion, that people find out immediately and that it's thwarted. And the best way you can do that now is from Simply Safe Home Security. New generation of home security, Simply Safe. All connected by Wi-Fi and cellular, so even when someone tries to cut the phone lines to your home, the system will still send an alert when it's triggered by somebody trying to break in. Everything about Simply Safe system is intuitive. That means you can figure it out while you're doing it. You don't need a manual. From the HD cameras to the sensors to the motion detectors, all the way through to the Simply Safe phone app that connects you to your system. Keeps you constantly in touch with the security of your home wherever you happen to be. Now, Simply Safe has gone to great lengths to provide you with the best option on how to protect your family and home when you leave it. And there's a Simply Safe 24/7 monitoring service, too. There's a little base station that comes where all the sensors connect to and communicate with. And if you want, in addition to alarms sounding and lights flashing in the house, you can have an alert sent to the police department, the monitoring that most home security systems have. And, during false alarms, they'll call you and they think you're the robber and you have to know the password. And if you don't know the password, they send the cops. If you're home or not, you can swear up and down, you're you. No, don't send the cops. It's me. I just can't remember. They send the cops. You got to know the password or however you have arranged to authenticate yourself with the people in the call center. So with Simply Safe, they have a system that does the same thing, but it's only $14.99 a month, not $50 or $55, and there's no 2-year contract for it. You can see all this online at a website built for you, simplysafeusa.com. No /rush, no /this, just simplysafeusa.com. You can customize the system online. You can ad hoc. You can look at a smorgasbord, pick this part, or they have pre-configured systems that are the result of studies made on what most people want. There's also, if you have a Best Buy store nearby, you can see a couple of their best-selling systems on display there, if you want to go that route. But either way, go to Best Buy or go to simplysafeusa.com, and that's where the magic starts to happen. simplysafeusa.com. Here's Laurie in Colorado Springs. I'm glad you called. Great to have you here.
Well, hi, Rush. It's just awesome to talk to you.
Thank you.
I can't even believe I'm talking to you.
Well, here you are. It's great to have you with us. It really is.
Oh, well, I just wanted to call. Longtime fan. Our whole family's a longtime fan of yours, back from Kansas City Royals. My grandpa was a longtime season ticket holder and club member all through the 80s. Loved you then. And with my mom, I'm definitely a Rush baby. But my husband's a 27-year veteran of the Army, just retired in January, so big military supporters as well. But I had to call, and I can't even believe I'm talking to you when you mentioned my dad's name, Bill Tobin, earlier.
Are you Bill Tobin's? You're Bill Tobin's daughter?
I am.
Holy smokes!
And
is it Bill or Vince that worked at the Lions?
Bill worked at the Lions. Vince was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. My dad started in 1975 with the Packers for a few years, and he was instrumental. He drafted Walter Payton, instrumental in the Bears. In the Bears' 85 Super Bowl. After that, went to the Colts. Was a lot with the Lions briefly, and is now actually working for my brother Duke with the Bengals. So
now let me ask you, Laurie. Our phone system's very bad. When you're talking, you can't hear me. It's not your fault, but I need to ask you a specific question. Was Bill Tobin? Was your dad at the Lions when Matt Millen was the general manager?
Yes.
Okay, because I talked to him. The reason I'm asking you, I went in when the day Ford Field opened. It was a pregame against the exhibition game against Steelers. It was the first game, maybe the second game of the season. And as they were escorting me through the stadium, meeting people, and your dad came up and said hello to me and introduced himself. And say, hey, we're big fans and all. He was as nice as he could be. I've never forgotten it. That's why the name. I remember the name Bill Tobin when I saw the news story with him quoted today.
Well, let me tell you, he's seen a lot, and over the years, the many, many years he's been with the NFL, and, he's definitely seen the changes, and, it's not for the better, but, it's been a great ride growing up with the Bears, and the exciting time when we were in Chicago, as well as, down the line.
But, absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say, I was glad to see, I know the Bengals are, they've had their share of downs this year, but, Fox News had Johnny Joey, the gentleman that lost his legs in Iraq, and I guess he spoke with the Bengals on Monday and talked about how they, no one will stand or no one will sit on our sidelines. And I didn't see anything. I didn't see any pictures of their game this weekend against the Packers. But, I hope that, I don't know, it's just so much going on. But it's my
your dad. I'm looking for the story now, and it must be in a stack that I can't get to right. But your dad had some really, they were clear-cut and to the point comments about what's happening in the NFL, in which he said, look, people have concussions outside the NFL. People die outside it. People never played football. These things all happen. And to claim that football is responsible for all these things, it's sad, and what they ought to do is don't harm the game. Let people that want to play the game sign something and let them play the game the way the game is meant to be played. There are plenty of people that want to, and all that. And I thought, Laurie, that it was a courageous as hell thing to say in this particular atmosphere.
Well, you know what it is? I think it's from my mom sent me the link, and I didn't read the article yet, but it's because they went up to play in Green Bay, and my dad started his career back in 1975 with Dan Devine at the Packers. So I think it was, and it was a sports writer, I'm pretty sure, up there. Now I wish I had read it all and stuff, but, busy with kids. My mom sends me a lot of things that I get to it eventually. Unfortunately, that's the difference between.
Well, you need to read this link. I can tell you're proud of your dad, but you should read this link.
Very.
It's clearly an old school guy, and he loves the game as it's always been played and so forth. And it was. Mentioned he's with Bengals. It was a really that's why it stands out with me today. Drew Brees is the one player that said something today or yesterday that I saw that stands out. Brees acknowledged, he said what he had to say about Trump's comments, but he said, I'm never going to understand not standing for the anthem. I don't ever want to see that. And that was
right.
Only player that I've heard say that.
Well, one more thing, just to throw a real big kink in it, if you'll Google his name, he played back in 63 and 64 with the Missouri Tigers, Mizzou, so he's a Mizzou grad. So needless to say, he has seen a lot.
Well, if he was at Mizzou back then it was at Mizzou when Mizzou was Mizzou. All right. Well, this is Laurie, and she is the daughter of Bill Tobin, and I happened to mention him in the story last hour. And what are the odds that she would get through here? I am so glad that you did. I've got to go because I'm out of time, but it's been a sheer joyful pleasure talking to you. This is the so-called conservative movement, largely populated inside the Beltway. What's happened to it? And it's brilliant and poignant and hard-hitting, and I was going to get to it. I've decided to move this to tomorrow because it would get lost in all of this today. So I'm going to put that on the top of the reserved for tomorrow stack when the program ends. But there's not too much other stuff here. The Republican health care efforts and Kim Jong-un and that stuff going on. which we'll all circle back to tomorrow. Now, this news story about Equifax suffering a massive security breach several weeks ago continues to unfold. Equifax is the credit bureau company that collected data on, it's now 143 million Americans. They collect the data for retailers and banks and others. Then they rate people's credit worthiness. Online hackers got into the Equifax system and they had about 6 weeks of access to that data before they were nabbed. Nobody knows for sure how much data was taken. Some reports say that the data of 200,000 or more people was affected, with more details still coming out. The number probably is going to keep inching up there. They trickle this kind of bad news out. But you see, when something like this happens, Equifax offers a year's worth of online identity theft protection. As a forgive us, we'll try harder next time. But is 1 year enough? I mean, after all, when your social security number, your birth date, your name are taken by online hackers, that kind of information can be used for years and years because the details of your identity will never change. The best way, if this stuff bothers you, if you have any concern that maybe your name's not part of Equifax, but your name, your credentials, your identity is somewhere. You buy something on the net, therefore you've used it, it's somewhere. And if you worry about being hacked or being caught up in a hack, there really is the best way to protect yourself, and that's LifeLock. LifeLock offers the single best online identity theft protection. You sign on with them, they immediately monitor the web on your behalf. You create a pattern, a spending pattern, behavior pattern, and every other member of LifeLock has the same thing happen. Billions of online transactions are monitored. Account openings, credit inquiries, all that stuff. They're looking for signs that an identity has been breached, and they're experts at seeing those signs. And when they spot one, they alert you immediately. They'll text you, they'll call you, they will email you, however you like to be notified, and they won't stop until they reach you. And they'll ask you about the aberration they found and ask you if it's you or not, and then your answer depends what happens next. If it's not you and somebody's taken your identity for their own gain, LifeLock begins to try to track it down, stop any further instances happening, and they put their restoration team on the case to fix it. The restoration team is something nobody else has. Now, nobody can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but man, oh man, there's nobody that gets close to LifeLock at doing it. Call them at 800-440-4833 or lifelock.com. Either way, use my name and you'll get 10% off when you start. Lifelock.com or 800-440-4833. Mary Lou in Youngstown, Ohio. Great to have you with us. How are you?
I'm great, Rush, and excited to be talking to you.
Thank you.
I know it's running out of time. I just wanted to get to my point. I wonder if we would be where we are today with this NFL situation if the owners of the 49ers had taken some action last year. I live in the city where the owners live, and I waited all last year for them to do something about it. And maybe if they had taken a stand and gotten other owners behind them, we wouldn't have reached this point.
What kind of stand? What do you mean? What do you think the Yorks?
I think they should have done something last year and said,
what?
Well, do whatever, like the rules say you can't protest them, on a company time.
When Kaepernick took the knee, you think they should have gone to Kaepernick and said, you're standing up, but or else.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
right.
okay.
I mean, I'm a teacher. I was never allowed to take my public views, into the classroom. So I just think that might have made a difference. I don't know. You're more savvy about these kind of things.
That's a great point. All hell would have broken loose if they'd done it. But that's all hell breaks loose when you discipline anybody.
Right.
I mean, you have to be. That's part of being an adult. Let me ask you this, because time is draining, as you said. What do you think? Like, I saw sports writers today saying the way to solve this, aside from not playing the anthem anymore, is for some brave, courageous owner to hire Kaepernick and let him play quarterback. What do you think that would do?
Oh, that would make me angrier. I'm already not watching this year because I'm a very sad Steelers fan. And if they cave in and give him a job just because of this, I would be even more disappointed.
Yeah, I think your reaction would probably represent a majority of reaction. But the sports writer, the sports media community thinks that if some brave owner, they're sending a signal that they'll make an owner a hero. They'll make him the most popular brave guy in the media if he'll hire Kaepernick. And they think that would be the way to win this and to embarrass Trump and to stop the opposition at the same time.